All right. We should now be live, Sam. It's really great talking to you once again. Great chatting with you once
Always a
again.
pleasure.
This is
Always a
fun.
pleasure. So this is the RBS to RBS conversation. Two RBS doing a, a Zoom chat. Oh no, this is Google Hangout chat.
This is a Google Hangout chat. Come on, Sam. Come on. We got to use the
You're
right product.
biased, of course.
Yes, sir. Yeah, we should start with introduction. So why don't we both speak about our backgrounds and how we came into RBS, how we found out about RBS, and what we do today. So why don't we kick it off with you, Sam? You go first.
Perfect. All right. So I'm Sam Alemayehu. I'm RBS 2004, class of 2004. My goodness, it has been 16 years ago. So I came to the US in 2000 in high school, just starting in a high school 9th grade from Ethiopia. So for me, the process of discovering colleges and process, I've really kind of connected with RBS from the very start. Because as I was searching, even 9th grade, 10th grade, I remember, of kind of almost like a blueprint of what type of summer programs you go for, how to go into a different college. It was really using the biographies on the RBS website. I've had a few mentors that have given me direction, but most importantly for me, I really used the RBS. I had no expectation that I could win the scholarship, but for me, a lot of the biographies was a way of, oh my God, like this person went through all of this hardship, but they did it. And it outlined, it was very inspirational. I really connected with, and that's, I discovered it in 9th grade, has been following the various biographies, and then applied in 2004. And when I got in, it was amazing. What about you, Mike?
Yeah, 100%. So it's funny that we have very similar backgrounds, right? So I'm obviously also from Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. I also came about the same age. So when I was 14, I came to the US and started 9th grade. So I actually started 9th grade back at home and then finished it here in the US. And I also found out about RBS like early on. So around 10th grade, I started sort of reaching out to guidance counselors and teachers about what are important resources I should keep my eyes on. And RBS definitely came up very early on. And, there's quite a lot of pride I have there with, being accepted into RBS, because there's only, 10 to 15. It's been growing over the years, which is awesome. But back, I think in my time, which is 2009. So RBS 2009. So 5 years after you. There were I think there were 12 of us that got accepted in the end. And being one of 12 out of the whole country is an amazing source of pride. And it was something I look forward to, and that weekend, selection weekend, is something I'll never forget. Like that moment of like sitting together in a room waiting to get called up for the interview. Yeah, but
did Mr. Mallory play the trick on you guys of how many people would get it? But hold on, were there 12 finalists your year or more?
There were 12 winners in my year. Yes. I have to double check that number, but I'm pretty sure. But there were more than 12 finalists.
Oh, so not okay. So your year was like a real suspense.
It was real suspense. It was for real. We had, some of the applicants were not accepted in the end, and I actually still know some of them very closely. So one person went to MIT as well. And so I found him there, and we were friends there. But yeah, our year was not one of the ones where everybody got in, man. So it was real. It was serious.
Oh wow! Because Mr. Mallory has this notoriety of kind of tricking all of us, taking us in, making us kind of sweat it out, and then all of a sudden, like, oh, you all got in, and it was 20. It was 20 every year. Yeah. And then the financial crisis happened. And you were the year of austerity. I was like, oh no,
we were the year after the crisis. Yeah. Yep. So for us, we had to actually be limited.
Wow.
But that said, right, like everyone in the room, I don't know how they made that decision. Everyone in that room was amazing. And like I told you, I know some of them still. Yep. And they were amazing people, and I'm sure doing great things. So it was mostly luck that I made it in. But even to be one of those however many finalists was a great sense of pride for me.
Yeah. No, absolutely, and the same for me as well. And I think you're talking about those 20 because I think I've always wondered, and it's not a job that I want to have, how the selection committee goes from, looking at 6,000, usually self-selecting group of people that are even applying in the first place.
Yeah.
And even from there, like the finalists, the final 500, that's how kind of RBS ended up introducing the captain program. Because even the 200 that you have at the end are really good.
Yep.
So when you're trying to whittle down, it's very, very hard. You're going into that territory of you're not sure. Then all of a sudden you're taking 20 and then trying to select 12 is even harder. So I do not envy the job that they have to do. But I'm very, very grateful that I was one of the ones that they selected, and you as well. So
yeah. I would say my most memorable moment being an RBS scholar in general, if I have to pick one, it would have to be, when Miss Evans called me up. I feel like it was on a weekend. I remember it being on a Saturday, and I was just like doing homework in the living room. My mom and dad were like in the bedroom in the apartment. And like she called me, and I was, her tone wasn't like super happy. So she was sort of like, mellow. And I was not expecting goodness. I was like, oh no, she doesn't sound very happy. She doesn't sound very excited. And then when she told me, I was like super excited. And then I immediately like ran into my parents' room, and they knew about it, obviously, like the RBS scholarship. So it was a huge moment of pride and excitement for them too. So I will never forget like that moment when
absolutely
they were super happy.
I mean, the same for me. I remember that phone call. And I mean, it's a long time ago, but I remember it as if it was like a week ago. Because for me, one, the amount of the scholarship and how flexible the scholarship was, it was a big deal.
It was a big deal.
And the second was being in this fraternity and in this family of RBS that I have been following their bios for years. And one thing that was wonderful was I had 4 other friends that I've gotten to know because of summer programs ahead of that. And all 4 of us got in. And we applied together. So it was wonderful. It was Michael Mekonnon, Mike Woodward, and then a year after us. Oh no, and I'm forgetting one more person. But we did the Quest Summer Scholar Program at Stanford, and we did different things. But for us, it was one of those stuff where we really wanted to apply to RBS. And all 4 of us applying, and out of all that list, being able to get in was such a special time. So for me, those were kind of 4 friends that I've gotten to know, and then all 3 of us ended up deciding to go to Stanford together. And that's one of the things, you create lifelong friendships. So being an RBS for me has meant creating genuine friendships, getting unconditional love and support for what I could become, being provided with that, no eye to carrying favor, or, oh, we're gonna, support you this way, or we're gonna give you this money because you're gonna do this. No, nothing. It's like, all we want from you is go ahead and succeed, be your best self. And such a phenomenal place. The money was great, but beyond the money, it's that group of people that totally believed in you when you really didn't even believe in yourself at times. Of saying, you could be the LeBron of whatever shit that you're trying to do. I'm like, oh wow, okay. All right, I got this. And then, whatever is happening, it motivates you to go ahead, and it's coming 100%. From a genuine place as well.
And seeing so many people that are, like you, that are succeeding and like, doing the best in their respective fields is inspiring. Like basically you can say, okay, my people who look just like me, people who have similar backgrounds are getting it done, are doing it. Look at them, look at how high they're going. So I can do it too. So you feel that sense of, I can do the same. And then you have that extra confidence, which definitely helps, right? Which definitely helps. And 100% agreed. It's a really great group to be in. So I want to ask you, what would you say were like difficult times that you had to go through as part of your college career, but also like just just your career in general, even after college, and how has RBS factored into getting past those challenges for you?
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's a great question. For me, there are lots. I mean, lots and lots of challenges that the first person I will think of calling is Mr. Mallory.
Yeah.
And then he has this just amazing ability of knowing when you really need him.
Yeah.
And like he would call you, it's like, oh my God, how did you know that like I'm going through this shit? And I remember, it just, for me, it was, going through this entrepreneurship and the path of entrepreneurship is always a path of less traveled and you face quite a lot of challenges. You're facing a whole lot of failures at times, and you're questioning, my God, like should I be doing this or should I be going this way? And I remember like my sophomore year, I was able to use part of my scholarship in order to cover the costs of a project that we were running as a group, and then that was one of my first quasi nonprofit / borderline business endeavor, trying to create this program where we took golf carts and transformed them to teach kids and to teach about project-based learning. I got kids and my son is crying in the background. So you don't have that mic.
I don't, not yet.
But even later on, like being an adult, married, and lots of challenges that you're facing, like what should I be doing? I mean, you have the Ram Brown community that you could reach out to.
Yeah.
Both the Forbes Friends of Ram Brown, but also the amazing office staff that are the engine of this program that make it run at all times. So for me, it was being able to be heard, have someone that I could call to, that always have the answer. And usually the answer is, I mean, from my background, like my parents didn't know anybody in the US. Like if I wanted to go to a VC, they were not calling somebody like, John Doerr, hey brother, can you talk to my son? Like he would come by the country club and you guys play golf. Like that shit is not happening for us. But Mr. Mallory would call somebody, he's like, oh, the head of this VC is gonna talk to you. It's like, even the kids at Stanford that had like CEO parents did not have that level of connection. I'm like, see, this is like the good old country club type of connection that Ram Brown is able to give you at the right time. But the key thing is you have to ask for it. There's a group, and if they don't know somebody, they'll just put it out in the world. And there are a lot of people that are willing to genuinely support you. What about you? I would love to hear some difficult hurdles that you have faced, both during college and your career, amazing career at Google.
It's a good point that you said like asking for help from the Ram Brown group is actually like probably a great way to like leverage it as much as you can. And honestly, I don't think I've done that nearly enough. But like you said, Mr. Mallory somehow knows when to call you up. And that has happened to me like several times. So I will tell you two stories, one in college and one in my career, like at work. During college, like one of the things I had a difficult time with was making the right decision at the right time. I mean, college, you have a lot of those moments where you got to make the right decision at the right time. And one of them was, do I go and work at a big company, at a corporation, or do I go and pursue like a higher degree, do a master's and a PhD? And I liked both options, and I was sort of completely stuck. And one of the things that really helped me sort of break through and make a decision was one conversation with Mr. Mallory. And I remember it was a long one. I remember exactly where I was when I had that conversation with him. And he sort of guided me through what are questions to ask. And he gave me some examples of other Ram Brown scholars who did both options and what challenges they're facing 5 years later in their careers. And, basically showing me, kind of giving me a glimpse of the potential futures I would get if I were to follow either option. And that was super, super useful. And I think he called me up that time. I don't even think I realized to call him and ask. But that was a moment where like, okay, yeah, Mr. Mallory is a great resource that, I should definitely reach out to in the future. And even up till now, he calls me every 6 months or so. he does it. He sets it up. He's Mike, we haven't talked in a while. Call me up this time, and I always do. And recently, I was having sort of issues with kind of growing within the company, so going up the corporate ladder and having some challenges and sort of feeling like losing a bit of self-confidence. And in a conversation with him, I gained a lot of that confidence back in just one conversation where basically he helped me realize it's not necessarily you doing bad work or you being a bad employee or anything. You got to keep confidence in yourself. I can see it like within 6 months or a year, good things are going to happen. And he was right. Like he was right about it. And he sort of like helped me build my confidence and see things like a better way than I was before. So yes, certainly the conversations with Mr. Mallory for me are like what come to mind very first when I think about like the ways RBS has impacted my career.
Yeah, I know. I love that. I love that story. And for you, kind of working at Google now, what are some of the things that you see kind of interacting with other scholars that are coming below you, and in them facing the same kind of challenges or maybe their own versions? Have you had an opportunity to interact with them and also give back with your knowledge and wisdom?
That's a great question. You're putting me on the spot. So I think the best way or the closest I've gotten to doing this right is through the mentorship program, right? So of course, the older RBS have like the younger RBS to mentor, usually when they're still in their college years. So I've done this several times myself, and most recently my mentees were Kai and Vernon, who are both doing great things with their lives. So I'll just speak about Vernon for a second, where he did several startups during his early years. And he was like, I just knew he had it going on. He knew what he was doing. He didn't need me, right? But like the way I helped was I brought them to, I was based in the New York office. I recently moved to the DC area, so we're actually neighbors now. Sam, we need to go to a Wizards game. So
yeah, we do. Now COVID has gone down. Yes, exactly, brother.
But yeah. So when I was in New York, they were both going to Columbia University. So I would invite them every now and then to the Google office in New York, just to sort of give them a sense of like what working in a corporate world, in the software engineering world was like. And I think that helped them sort of get a sense of what that life would be like. And I think Vernon specifically, I don't think he wanted that. I think he knew he didn't want that, but it was useful for him to just like come in and see what it was like. And I believe now he's doing a startup, maybe more than one. I wouldn't be surprised. And he's doing great. So I think for me that mentorship program, which the program itself organizes, the RBS program that is, that's the main way that I've been able to give back. I can probably be doing more of it for sure, but that's been my main vehicle.
No, I love that. I love that. For me, one of the key thing has been how the RBS program has really started to widen quite a lot. You have the scholars, 2020 and your year 12 now, we're making up with 45 plus, but also the wider community of the captains and the ability to be able to share both the institutionalized system of connecting with employers, being able to select others, being able to have kind of the mentorship program that you're talking about. But now, I'm starting to see the GPS program, where like on Facebook for Workplace, we're seeing how impactful that has been, and talking with the newer scholars that are coming in, class of 2020, 2021, where a significant percentage of them have taken advantage of the GPS program for high school students, and how a lot of the things that we were getting informally by reading others' bio is now more institutionalized, where we could just easily jump in, talk to a single person that might be thinking about entrepreneurship or someone. I'm always trying to save your soul from Google so that you could start the next Google. I think it's about time. I don't know how many times I mention that every time I see you.
Comes up every single time.
But you know what? I'm not gonna give up. I think it's gonna happen very soon.
Maybe I shouldn't have moved to DC now. Now you're just gonna come
Oh
knocking
yeah,
at my
now
door.
COVID is down. I'm coming for you. You got the hair, you got the startup look. You know, I think you got it.
Fair enough.
So next question.
Yeah.
Let's talk about how we met. I remember in the Radisson Blue Hotel in Addis.
That's right. I would love to tell the story. This is like one of my favorite stories, which is, so, you know, obviously I'm 5 years later than you in RBS. So I knew very much about you by the time I was a scholar. In fact, later in so once after I graduated and I was already working, I think you were already on the board for RBS. So I knew a lot about you just from emails that are sent to the whole group. And then in 2017, I want to say.
Yeah, I think it was 2016 or 2017. Yep.
I was in Ethiopia visiting family, and I was at Radisson at a restaurant eating, like, you know, it was a family friend. And then I noticed on the next table over, it was you and someone like a very serious business conversation. So I didn't want to interrupt at first, but then at the end when we were leaving, I was like, I gotta go say hi to Sam. I went over, interrupted your business conversation. I apologize for that. I said, hey, Sam, I think I know you from RBS. And then next day, or like 2 days later, I was at the waste to energy facility that Sam built in Addis, which is, I believe, now fully functional. You gave me a tour of that amazing facility. So that's how we met. In fact, if you want to tell about that story, or
I want to add to that, because for me, you know, we get super excited every time a new class comes in. Yeah. So we look at your bio, we look at everything, and it's one of those stuff where you may not have met someone in person, but you know them very well. So when you came over, I'm like, I know you. You're like that MIT guy. That was that guy. And you're always kind of meaning to meet somebody. So it's as if, like, I have had known you for a long time, which I did from 2009. Your bio, Mr. Mallory will update us about different groups, different individuals. The emails do help a lot. So when we are meeting in person, it's as if, you know, kind of that collective history and connection of the Ram Brown brotherhood just pops in right away. So it was so much fun to see you there, to meet you, and then of course the world is small, and I knew about your brother and his wife, and you know, it's just one of those that kind of it's a small world. But the Ram Brown family, wherever we are around the world, we will meet. What are the chances that two scholars that started out high school in the DC area randomly meeting each other in the Horn of Africa? So Ram Brown is everywhere. Ram Brown scholarship is global, 100%. Truly global.
100%. Yeah, that was like a very cool moment. We got to do that again. Actually, I would love to visit the waste to energy facility.
This time I want you to visit another project that we've been working on that started out with that in Rwanda.
Gotcha.
So what we've been doing there is there's this lake. So my mission for the next 10 years, I've been investing a lot the past 2 years, but right now I am targeting products that produce the largest amount of greenhouse gases. Mm-hmm. So food production, plastic industry, and others, and replacing those products with naturally made like nature-based products that are made from greenhouse gases themselves. So we are taking greenhouse gases, specifically carbon dioxide and methane, and putting them through a biomanufacturing process and generating materials that would replace the industries that were the most polluted. Mm-hmm. And that's like flipping the carbon problem on its head. Mm-hmm. Now, I think, you know, the vision is in the next 10 years, carbon should be one of the biggest raw materials, to the point that we will drive an entire industry to be able to capture it and use it to replace the pollutive industry. So you're doing a double take where you're stopping pollutive industries, like, you know, really bad agriculture from protein productions and many other things, to plastic productions and doing them by sequestering carbon. And we got really exciting works in there. And one of the key projects that we're doing is at a lake called Lake Kivu, which is a very rare phenomenon of a lake, which is filled with carbon dioxide and methane.
Mm-hmm.
So we're capturing the gas that could erupt and cause catastrophic problems, capturing it at a very competitive rate and using that captured gas for interesting stuff. And for me, you know, like how excited I get, like we've done projects from cybersecurity to other stuff, but now back into targeting what really matters, connecting it back to Africa. We're also doing some work in other places, most importantly in West Virginia, where we're capturing gas from abandoned coal mines. But now it's all about how do you use greenhouse gases to turn them into the most valuable feedstock.
This sounds incredible, and obviously extremely timely, like given what's happening to the world, like, you know, and obviously it's getting more and more recognized. It sounds amazing. What status is the project in Rwanda at? And then what is your vision? What is your plan for the next 10 years?
Yeah. So the status is we have actually been working on it. My co-founder has been working on it for 8.5 years as his PhD thesis, as well as postdoc and as a professor now. But also for us, we did it when we were doing the waste to energy project on the side. But the interesting thing is it's really taking microbes that only consume carbon dioxide or methane as their carbon source. And through CRISPR, you're able to put in and design their DNAs to put in whatever you want them to produce.
You've done this? It's already working?
We are up and running. Currently, we're able to take a ton of carbon dioxide, and we could produce about 100 kilograms of protein.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And then we also make this thing called PHA, polyhydroxyalkanates, that are natural packaging materials. Again, you do the same thing. You have these microbes that only consume carbon dioxide and methane. So you're literally making something out of thin air.
I
invested in the business initially and then joined them to take it to the next level. But they have been researching it and working on it, and there are lots of other exciting companies doing similar stuff. But ours seems to have the most advancement. But it's exciting stuff now. And I really think in the next 10 years, a large amount of protein production and plastic alternative productions are going to come from this type of biomanufacturing.
Do you plan on, you know, scaling this to many other countries? So 10 years from today, what is your hope?
10 years from today, the goal is you will have a container the size of a house in every farmer's backyard.
I see.
And if they had 1,000 hectares, they only need 2 hectares. The rest could be a forest.
Got it.
And then they just capturing carbon from the air, because that price is expensive right now, but we think that will go down very, very soon. And you're producing all kinds of different materials. You're literally producing high quality protein, because currently protein production is done in the gut of, especially milk protein, wheat protein, is done in the gut of the cow, and the cow is the shittiest machine out there. It's extremely inefficient in how it uses food. It's extremely inefficient. A liter of milk only has 3.3% of protein. So efficiency-wise, it's really bad. But a fermentation tank could have about 80-85% efficiency, which could be extremely competitive. So you could produce it at 1,000 less the land size, 100 times less the water, and 1/10, 1/20 of the cost of existing productions. So those are some of the promising things, but most importantly, you're reducing a significant amount of carbon that is going into the atmosphere, working on that. So that's what I'm excited about.
This is incredible. This is awesome.
What are you working on? And I want to know some of the things that you have been kind of pushing in the world.
Well, I can't live up to what you just said. You're like literally solving the most pressing, one of the, like, maybe
trying to
problem in the world. I am not solving one of the most pressing problems in the world. But I'll give it a try. So I'm working at Google on the search team. I've been working on the search team on various different projects for the last more than 5 years. And a lot of my work is infrastructure work that is like sort of internal and hard to describe. But one of the things I can talk about is, most recently I've been working on a team that works on things like Easter eggs or sort of like delightful features in search that you might encounter by accident and sort of get surprised and hopefully delighted by. So one example is, I don't know if you're a sports fan, but one recent thing that I've worked on and sort of led through is celebrating the winner of some sort of championship. So if Liverpool were to win the Champions League next year, a few days after the final game of the Champions League, searching for Liverpool or searching for the Champions League on Google would show like red fireworks because Liverpool's color is red, and sort of this will be visible on many of the major leagues. So last week or 2 weeks ago, when the World Series ended, if you search for the Atlanta Braves, you probably saw some fireworks in the colors of the Atlanta Braves, that kind of thing. And that's one specific example, but that type of feature across many like types of queries is something that I've been working on recently. And it's sort of like a very small thing, but when users see it in the wild and sort of
it absolutely
by
changed
themselves,
their day. Yep.
I hope so. That is precisely the dream. But more usefully than that, actually, the most impactful thing that I worked on Google Search has been right when COVID was breaking out. There were sort of like war room efforts, sort of sprints to get information out to users about COVID. Ranging from what are COVID symptoms, what are things I can do to prevent COVID, what are clinics where I could go close by to get tested for COVID, and all these kinds of, and obviously stats. What are the stats, COVID stats around me? By no means did I work on all of these things. It was a very huge collaborative effort. There's thousands of people who work on search, but that effort felt actually positive and useful and meaningful to the world, where it could literally be, in that case, a life or death situation when you look at it at scale. So being able to contribute to that was a very fulfilling part of being in search. And that's actually the main reason why I've had a hard time to leave Google, despite all your push and your urging, is that search is actually like one of the most like impactful products out there, where it touches almost everyone. Like most people use it in some way or another. And I've been trying to find my ways of like making my tiny changes to search that will influence a number of people, and hopefully it's a large number of people. So that's been what's given me like sort of fulfillment and pride in my work for the last 5 or so years.
What is amazing is, as you're describing this and the beauty, and I'm always, joking, but also half joking and saying you should also be starting, because I really think, you really do have the gift to be able to go out there and build meaningful products. But one thing you cannot do in a startup is you're adding a feature, and then all of a sudden, once it's in production, it affects millions of people. It's just the scale. The scale of like how many, like even in Africa, how many individuals are diehard fans of Liverpool? Like millions, sometimes hundreds of millions. So it's just, and then you almost all of a sudden have, because I was just Googling, and people will take screenshots and go, oh my God, this made my day. Like, this is a wonderful stuff I'm working on.
Some pages on Twitter of like people finding it and getting excited by it. And that's exactly like what I'm looking for. Like, it's so nice when I see that.
No, I love that. And also, with that level of, for a company like Facebook, so Google and other places, it hasn't had the same problem Facebook and others have had. It does take its responsibilities, but again, the point I wanted to make was, it comes with that level of privilege and power. There's a huge amount of responsibility.
100%.
And as you're working in there, what are some of the exciting things? I know you cannot talk about all of them coming up in the future. Where do you see yourself? What type of products do you want to start working on, where knowing that you do something right, it's going to affect millions of people?
Yeah, this is a great question. I don't know that I can answer it in full color, just because of the nature of things, but my intention is entirely to continue to work in search, and sort of roughly in the teams that I've been working on most recently. I think I'll continue to work in this sort of delight space. That is actually what we call the team, where we're sort of hopefully changing the users, like the user's day by a tiny bit that day, and doing something meaningful and special to them. And maybe someday will actually be even more personalized in some way. That I think would be very cool, and sort of, in very vague terms, I would say I'm going to sort of continue to work in that direction of making small changes to search that will hopefully reach many users and improve their lives in a meaningful way. But I'll tell you more details once they launch.
Yes. No, I can't wait. But even the name is wonderful. Delight. What a great purpose to have. If your job and our job, as always, when you're creating a product for your customers, is you want to delight them.
Yeah.
So I love that. I love that. What haven't we covered? I think, are we supposed to be 30 minutes or an hour?
We are. I don't know how many we are. We're supposed to be 30 minutes. I don't know how far we've gone. We've probably gone quite.
But it was fun.
Yes, it's been lovely. Is there any message you want to send to RBS scholars, old or new, that you want to end this conversation with, Sam?
Yeah. I think we both should send kind of our messages. Kind of two things that I would love to part on, kind of both existing RBS scholars, the greater family. I mean, we're getting really large. So our Capitan family, our RBS scholar family, where the alumni are now so much bigger than the scholars that had shifted a while ago. We're over 400 now. With the whole Capitan family, we're over 3,000. And when you're adding all of that in the GPS family, we're getting close to 10,000 plus. So in that community, we do have a responsibility and the ability to be able to, one, collectively find ways how to be impactful, how to continuously discover and share ideas of who's doing what, so that we could join other people's projects and other work, be it nonprofits, activities, activism, political campaigns, but also business ideas. And I think connecting with one another, there's a lot that we could do. And then the other part is all of us. I mean, there has come a day where the future destiny of the scholarship program is really in our hands. We are all now starting to be quite productive. So the more we start to give back, I think there will come a day where the biggest donors to RBS are going to be RBS scholars.
Yeah.
And like in the last campaign, like $485,000 has been raised by scholars, where we were challenged to get to $1 million by Robert Smith. We're not there yet, but I think we're on our path to be able to do that. And that's just super exciting. And you don't see, I mean, a lot of other scholarship absolutely would envy that type of participation and that type of number, where it's a program that has worked for us to be able to engage, to be able to give back in every form. And I think some of the best ways of giving back are actually the mentorship that you were mentioning earlier, engagement. So I think our family and our system is going to be as strong as our collective connections. And the more we continue to engage with one another, the more we continue to support each other's desire to delight the world and make it a better place, I think the stronger this family becomes.
Yeah, huge +1 to both of the points you made. I would also add that, I'm sure everyone in the group is doing great things. And I imagine COVID might have thrown a wrench in a lot of our, our work and our lives. But I just, to whoever hears this message, I urge you all to keep forging forward, keep going at it. You're more than capable. I know for sure. That's one thing I'm certain of, is anyone in this group is capable of achieving their goals. So keep at it. If it's been a difficult time, hang in there. And then the other thing I would mention again is that, we have a wealth of information and a wealth of contacts within the group that I don't know if we actually tap into enough. I know I don't really I've mentioned, I've talk to Mr. Mallory often. I've talked to you, Sam, often, and those have been super valuable. But I haven't talked to many of my other like RBS brothers and sisters nearly as much as I should have. That's something I will need to fix. But I also urge everyone else to say to check out like who's out there and what are they doing? What can I learn from them? What can we trade notes about? And using that opportunity, not letting it go to waste is something I also encourage everyone to do. Yeah.
No, I love it. I love it. I think that's a fantastic message. And for younger, older scholars, that's what we got to do. And yeah. I also am trying to get myself to reach out more, engage with as many people that I haven't seen. And you're right, with COVID and others, we haven't had AJA. Yeah. I can't wait. Right. It has been way too long without the annual dinner. And now you're in the DC area. You're not going to miss it. So we'll do more events. But this has been fantastic.